faith, family, and the future of our community. Welcome to Ashonda at Large. Ann Coulter, the conservative commentator, made a statement that was so common sense. She ought to be crucified in America. She says something so radical that I am surprised that even got away on air. I want you to take a listen to this clip as Ann Coulter talks about civil rights.
And Ann Coulter, you made kind of a provocative comment in your new book here, Mugged, and I think it's on page 151. You write that various groups, feminist, gay rights groups, and those who are defending immigrants have commandeered the black civil rights experience. Yes. What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated blacks like children and many of their policies have been harmful to blacks. At least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, I mean, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who are desirous of having abortions, but that's, or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. They dropped the blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for blacks.
See, this is essentially the problem, and the Republicans don't understand.
What have we done to the immigrants? We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country.
But you see, most of us are either immigrants or are the descendants of immigrants, and we understand that not everybody, there are Native Americans in, but we understand in this country, that kind of self-deportation, making things so difficult for immigrants, for undocumented immigrants, that they have to leave, or the DREAM Act, vetoing, threatening to veto the DREAM Act, which is what Romney has said. I mean, and again, we have Governor Romney, who is basically taking a position that is anti a large and the fastest growing segment of the electorate.
And here's the thing, if Republicans don't do something with immigration, and if Republicans are so far away from Latinos, they're going to lose not only this election, they might lose the White House for generations.
The future.
And Texas to turn from
why the
red to
Democrats
blue.
are dropping the blacks and moving on to the Hispanics because they're a larger group of Hispanics now. But could I just say to Jorge, I hate to disagree with you when you're attacking President Obama, but I think the point on immigration is you can have open borders or you can have a welfare state. You cannot have both. When you have a big government giving out benefits for all sorts of things, then you have to care very much who the immigrants are.
But immigrants do contribute much more than what they take away. Immigrants contribute much more than what they take away from the economy. $10 billion a year, according to the National Academy of Sciences.
Exactly.
So it's great to have immigrants in this country.
Both legal and illegal immigrants are way more likely to be on welfare than native-born Americans. That is a problem.
For years, grassroots black leaders have been saying we need to have a black agenda to only fall on deaf ears. But now we're starting to see a collective and a unification. We need a black agenda. If you want our vote, you're going to have a black agenda, and it's going to have to be more than burgers, greens, and hot sauce, Kamala Harris. But we're seeing that now, as we are coming into this unity, that the words of J. Edgar Hoover are proving to be true. That the single greatest threat to the United States government is a united Negro people. We have here Miss Ann Coulter, who has said some very controversial things in the past and has not necessarily ever really shown herself to be a friend of ADOS people. But here she is making extra sense. She is pointing out the obvious, that civil rights is something that is due to a specific group of people, and that happens to be American descendants of slaves, the Hebrew people of this country. She's pointing that out, and it makes them rather uncomfortable. I like the boldness that she's coming at it with. Oh, but what about what we're dealing with in our countries? I don't know if y'all remember a boy named Elian Gonzalez. I think that was his name back. Oh man, it was about 15 or 20 years ago when he came onto the shores of Florida from Cuba, and the whole country went into eruption because they wanted to deport him back. They said no dry foot, wet foot policy, some policy that they made so that Cubans who were coming to the United States would have asylum here in this country. But every time, and I live in South Florida, y'all, so I know this to be a fact. And at the time I did it. But every time a Haitian ship, or not a ship, but a boat came, you would have them in the water. The police out there escorting their behinds right back on over to Haiti. Wasn't no wet foot, dry foot policy for them. Back to Ann Coulter, she says civil rights are for black people, and specifically American descendants of slaves. Not black immigrants, but American descendants of slaves. And you could feel the tension in the room. How dare she say something so true? That we owe a debt to black Americans, not anybody else. Now we are at a time where it's supposed to be the recognition by the United States government through the bill H.R. 1242, recognizing our 400 years in this nation. All of these great things are supposed to be going on and happening to support the celebratory achievements of so-called African Americans in this country. We are at the tipping point at the end of Black History Month. And what have we seen already in the year 2019? Our celebration started with a government shutdown. And the government shutdown lasted for 35 days. This same government shutdown affected the most disenfranchised black Americans among us who are on government assistance. Threats of people in Section 8 housing, of becoming evicted, food stamps threatened to be shut off. Then after about 25 days or so of letting the dust settle, President Trump came out on February 15th and announced a national emergency for the funding of the border wall. Now, we don't know what that's going to lead to. As of now, there's no smoke in the dust, but we don't know what repercussions are going to come from this, because one thing about national emergencies is they tend to lend themselves to that other yucky thing called martial law. And hopefully we won't run into that situation over this border wall. But Ann Coulter had some very interesting words to say about Trump's decision to go into a national emergency as well. Take a listen.
More than any other presidential mandate in the history of the nation, Trump's mandate was to build wall up. No one thought, oh yeah, look, he was governor of the biggest state in the union. he used to run the CIA. He was Reagan's vice president. He was he was FDR's. No, it was one thing, the promise he made every single day at every single speech. Yeah. So forget the fact that he's digging his own grave. This is just, look, the only national emergency is that our president is an idiot.
Hey, this is Ashonda coming to you for a brief minute to invite you to subscribe to my channel, as well as hit that notification bell so that you can get the latest content as soon as it comes out. Well, I hope you're enjoying today's discussion. Back to the podcast. Now, I bring this up because what we're seeing here, my fellow brothers and sisters, we are starting to see the unraveling of this system, where the Most High is forcing the hand of the spirit of Pharaoh. This issue of what has been done to us is not something that is being allowed to be swept under the rug. any longer. Whether it's in the political sphere or the economic sphere or the entertainment sphere, of those of y'all who have followed the Grammys and saw that Cardi B won the Best Hip Hop of the Year and said, hold on a second, this is cultural appropriation. And as others have pointed out, that Cardi B is not black, and yet she, at every stage and every chance that she gets, uses the N-word. Now, I don't know Cardi B's music because I don't listen to that foolishness. And I don't believe that our people should. We don't need to be endorsing this nonsense. I don't care whether it's coming from an ADOS or it's coming from an immigrant. We don't need to endorse anything at this point for our unification that is going to tear down our community. As Nas said years ago, hip hop is dead. We need to stop listening to and endorsing the things that are destroying us in our minds. But regardless of whatever sphere it is, we are coming into a place where we say, you know what? We have to unify. We've got to come together. And as we are unifying and coming together, we are starting to see the unraveling of this system, this broken system that has been broken for such a long time. Because Ann Coulter was buddy up with Donald Trump. But for her to say what she said about him, it's all a part of the game as well. But the game that they're playing is coming to an end because the Most High is pulling on the strings and on the heart of the king because he turns it whithersoever he wills. And the same way he hardened Pharaoh's heart so that the judgments could come upon, the wonders could come upon Egypt before he executed final judgment. So he is in dealing with our situation, because this is not something that's going to be able to be pushed under the rug any longer. We're not toddlers. We are children of Israel. We are the descendants of Yeshua HaMashiach, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And our punishment has gone on for a very long time. Now we're starting to see recompense. We're starting to see that at this point, it's not because of anything that we're doing, but because of the Most High's awesome ability to control every situation and turn it the way it is that he intended for it to go, which is for us as a people to finally wake up and turn back to him. And we have to do that. We cannot neglect to put our focus on him as we're seeing situations in the media like this happening, as we're seeing the black boule get exposed for who they are, and we're saying, no, we're not going to fall for this game anymore. As we're starting to see what they really think about us and look at this thing from a different place of critical thinking. Because unfortunately, we have not been critical thinkers for a very long time. We've listened to Spin, we've listened to MSNBC and CNN, and we chided Fox News for being racist, but not seeing that CNN is playing us too. Fox News is racist, CNN is racist, MSNBC is racist. All of the news programs are racist because they're owned by the same corporate interests. They're owned by the same 6 companies that own all media. And they're all playing good cop, bad cop. So when we have grassroots media and when we have a voice that's in the wilderness crying out, make way, prepare ye the way for the coming of the Most High, Yeshua the HaMashiach, coming, prepare the way for him. And they may not even realize that's what they're saying, but they're saying it because they're speaking what he has intended and purposed for them to speak and saying, no, sir, not anymore. No black agenda, no black vote. You all have a debt that hasn't been paid, that has been used to destroy our families, our communities for far too long. And we're not going to sit back and let y'all do it anymore. We know that you want to use the immigrants to replace us, but you have a debt that you're going to handle because the borrower is slave to the lender. And you've borrowed our time. You've borrowed our emotions. You've borrowed our spirituality, turning our Messiah into Caesar Borgia. You've borrowed our physical strength, our creativity, our ingenuity. You've borrowed it for far too long. Matter of fact, you didn't borrow it, you stole it. But scripture says, let the thief who steals steal no longer. The Most High says that he will take back what the devil stole from us, because this is a spiritual thing. I'm not into calling white people devils. I understand that people aren't devils, but people have devils. They have demons, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We're dealing with principalities. This is a spiritual battle. But when we see Coulter get up there, make no mistake that the Most High is even directing that. She's not going to get up there and speak on behalf of black people unless the Most High said it's time. She's not going to stand in front of all of those immigrants and say, hey, we don't owe you nothing. You didn't come here as slaves. Nobody asked you to come here. And if you came here, then you better pick yourself up by your bootstraps and get to work. You can't go to anybody else's country and start making demands on them. You can do it here in America, but they like it that way, so they don't have to deal with their sin. They can give reparations to everybody else whose problems they had nothing to do with. To this day, the state of Israel is still receiving reparations for what happened in Germany. It didn't happen on this soil, but this soil is going to have to contend with what it has done to the Most High's people. Psalm 83, cutting us off from the remembrance of ourselves, is done away with. It's important that we understand that these things are unraveling little by little, but it is happening. We've got to wake up. We have to embrace our familial unity. We've got to embrace our community unity so that we, the nation inside of a nation, can begin to prosper the way we were intended to prosper. Well, let me know what you think below about Coulter and some of the things that she has to say. As always, thank you so much for listening to Ashonda at Large. Definitely like and share and continue to build up this page. Y'all, I'm so thankful for all of our new subscribers. This is a new channel, and so I'm grateful for all of you who have joined on board with the Ashonda at Large team. And I'm hoping to continue to bring out great content to build up your faith, your family, and the future of our community. So thank you once again for listening to Ashonda at Large. As always, love yourself without hating your enemy. And until next time, Yah bless and shalom.